are you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton. I'm really excited because today I'm going to be talking about more horror releases that are coming out the latter half of the year. There are a lot of them. I've picked 20 that I'm super excited about. Like every single one of these I want in my possession sooner rather than later. I have a wide range of stuff here. It's mostly adult. I do have 2 YA, a couple translated horror. These should all be under the horror category. Since most of these aren't out yet, I don't have the physical one to hold up my hand, so I'm going to be looking down at my laptop a lot, so we're going to be losing a lot of direct eye contact, which I'm not great at to begin with, but yeah, just so you know, I'm looking down at my laptop. All the release dates are subject to change due to the author or the publisher's discretion. This is just what I've seen on Goodreads. Some of these I hope they come out earlier than others, but yeah, this is just what I have right in front of me. I need some more caffeine. 1 second. I do want to prioritize getting more books from the library in the second half of the year. I didn't know this, and maybe it's because I didn't look into it enough, but you can pre-order books at the library or pre-reserve newer releases. There's a couple on here I've already requested through the Libby app, so just know that's out there. Alright, I refilled my coffee, so I should be good to go. I have 20 books to talk about. Get comfy, get a snack, get a drink, and let's chat about some horror books. Okay, so in July, the time I'm filming this is July 3rd, so this one is already out. Luckily for all of us, because it sounds amazing. This is Pink Slime by Fernanda Trias, translated from Spanish by Heather Cleary. Sounds like a plague post-apocalyptic horror. In a city ravaged by a mysterious plague, a woman tries to understand why her world is falling apart. An algae bloom has poisoned the previously pristine air that flows in from the sea. Inland, a secretive corporation churns out the only food anyone can afford, a revolting pink paste, made of an unknown substance. In the short, desperate breaks between deadly windstorms, our narrator stubbornly tends to her few remaining relationships. With her difficult but vulnerable mother, with the ex-husband for whom she still harbors feelings, with the boy she nannies, whose parents sent him away, even as terrible threats loom. Yet, as conditions outside deteriorate further, her commitment to remain in place only grows, even if staying means being left behind. I love this cover, and I love the UK edition cover too. They're both so good. They're stunning. And on July 16th, we have Smother Moss by Alyssa Alering. And there is a trend here. There are a couple, I think there's 3 on my list that have to do with Appalachia. And I did read The Woods All Black earlier this year that was more of an Appalachian horror too, so that is a trend I've been seeing in 2024. 1980s Appalachia. Sheila knows she needs to keep her appetites in check. Isolated and struggling in ramshackle poverty, her desires for food, for escape, for the perfect girls in the pages of her pilfered magazines are about the only thing she can control. With every passing day, life with her exhausted mother and her half-feral younger sister Angie feels more like a rope tightening around her neck. When a pair of hikers are brutally murdered on the trail, Sheila and Angie find themselves drawn inexorably into the hunt for the killer. The mountain they live on is ancient and powerful, and it's using them for its own ends. This just sounds so creepy, and again, the cover is so cool. It sounds like difficult mother-daughter relationships, which I'm always drawn to, especially in horror, and then put the Appalachian horror in the backdrop too. This sounds like it could be really, really good. Okay, and on July 23rd, we have our first YA horror, So Witches We Became by Jill Bagachinsky. And if I mispronounce anything, I'm sorry, I'm apologizing right now. For high school senior Nell and her friends, a vacation house on a private Florida island sounds like the making of a dream spring break. But Nell brings secrets with her, secrets that fuse with the island's tragic history, trapping them all with a curse that surrounds the island in a toxic, vengeful mist, and the surrounding waters with an unseen, devouring beast. Getting out alive means risking her friendships, her sanity, and even her own life. In order to save herself and her friends, Nell will have to face memories she'd rather leave behind, reveal the horrific truth behind the encounter that changed her life 1 year ago, and face the shadow that's haunted her since childhood. Easier said than done, but when Nell's friends reveal that they each have brought secrets of their own, a solution even more dangerous than the curse begins to take shape. I like the isolation horror, I like the storm, and like you can't get out, that they're trapped. I don't know, there's something, I think I have an idea of where some of this plot could go, but it could surprise me, and I am trying to read a little more YA. There's a lot of creators who talk about a lot of YA horror or thriller or fantasy that I feel like I'm just missing out on, so I do want to try and get some some of these in the rest of the year. Then we have a shorter book on July 30th called Stay on the Line by Clay McLeod Chapman. After a small coastal town is devastated by a hurricane, the survivors gravitate toward a long out-of-service payphone in hopes of talking out their grief and saying goodbye to their loved ones, only for it to begin ringing on its own. As more townspeople answer the call, friends and family believed to have been lost to the storm begin searching for a way back home. I love grief horror. I love when that's explored, and this sounds like such a unique premise. Yeah, another storm isolation horror sounds really great. Another one, July 30th, which I'm so excited about this one. I've been keeping my eye on this one for a few months now. It's Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. A chilling urban legend about a killer witch turns all too real for the residents at Camp Castaway in this pulse-quickening slasher novel. Some of my favorite horror movies are 80s slashers, like The Burning, Friday the 13th. I just love it. I love it so much. They're a reason why they're so popular and are so iconic in the horror genre. Anyway, Willow needs an escape. A former sitcom star, she's been publicly shamed on the internet after posting something she really shouldn't have. She checks into Camp Castaway, an adults-only retreat based at an old campground in the woods. It's the first night and the campers gather around the fire and decide to tell some ghost stories. That's when Willow hears the tale of Knock Knock Nancy, a local urban legend about a witch brutally beheaded in this very woodland. They say her restless spirit knocks on the doors late at night. If you answer, she'll take your head. This just sounds so fun. And I love the cover too. I think all of these have great covers. There's one cover I'm really not, I feel like it's really, I don't know, I don't really like it, but majority of these covers I really like. Alright, this is the first book that I have reserved at my library already. This comes out August 6th. House of Bone and Rain by Gabino Iglesias is also the author of The Devil Takes You Home, which I have not read, but is on my TBR. I've heard amazing things about his writing, and it's very thriller leaning, but also very horrific and disturbing, so I'm super excited. This one sounds really great. For childhood friends, Gabe, Javier, Tavo, Paul, and Bimbo, death has always been close. Hurricanes, car accidents, gang violence, suicide. Estamos rodeados de fantasmas was Gabe's grandmother's refrain. We are surrounded by ghosts. But this time is different. Bimbo's mom has been shot dead. We're gonna kill the guys who killed her, Bimbo swears, and they all agree. Feral with grief, Bimbo has become unrecognizable, taking no prisoners in his search for names. Soon they learn that Maria was gunned down by guys working for the drug kingpin of Puerto Rico. No one has ever gone up against him and survived. As the boys strategize, a storm gathers far from the coast. Hurricanes are known to carry evil spirits in their currents and bring them ashore. Spirits which impose their own order. Again, another storm. Sounds like it might be isolation horror too, like with the storm incoming. I really like the premise of this one. Also like grief horror and exploring that. Also just like the backdrop of it sounds very unique. I am interested to see how this one's gonna play out. Next is probably the most metal cover and synopsis of this entire list, and that is The Unmothers by Leslie J. Anderson. This comes out August 6th. This is an atmospheric tale of female rage, bodily autonomy, and generational trauma. Yeah! Marshall is still trying to put the pieces together after the death of her husband. After she is involved in a terrible accident, her editor sends her to a small, backwards town of Rayford to investigate a clearly ridiculous rumor that a horse has given birth to a healthy human baby boy. When Marshall arrives in Rayford, she finds an insular town that is kinder to the horses they are famous for breeding than to their own people. But when two horribly mangled bodies are discovered in a field, one a horse, one a human, she realizes that there may be a real story here. As she's pulled deeper into the town and its guarded people, her sense of reality is tipped on its own head. Is she losing her grip, or is this impossible story the key to a dark secret that has haunted the women of Rayford for generations? It sounds like folk horror, maybe some witches, maybe? I'm just guessing. I don't know, but I just love everything about this so much. Also on August 6th, we have Everything About This I'm so excited about. I just heard about this one and added to the list immediately. It's Eye of the Beholder by Emma Bamford, inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's classic thriller Vertigo. I'm a massive Alfred Hitchcock fan. Vertigo is one of my absolute favorite movies. too. It's so stunning. A sinister novel about the beauty industry, a ghostwriter, and the reappearance of a lover she thought was dead. When Maddie Wright is hired to ghostwrite the memoir of a world-renowned cosmetic surgeon, Dr. Angela Reynolds, she thinks it might be just her chance to get her career back on track. She travels to Angela's remote estate in the Scottish Highlands to hunker down and learn everything she can. But the deeper she digs, the more elusive the doctor becomes. Is there more hidden beneath the surface of the kaleidoscopic beauty industry than Angela wants to reveal? Sharing the estate is Angela's enigmatic business partner Scott, whose mercurial moods change as quickly as the conditions on the darkening moors outside. Confined to the glass-walled house, Maddie can't shake the feeling of being watched. As objects go missing, handprints appear on the windows, and a stranger lurks on the grounds. She finds herself drawn ever closer to Scott. Returning to London once the book is finished, Maddie is excited for their future together, but her dreams are shattered at the book launch when Angela learns that Scott has leapt to his death from the Scottish cliffs. Which is why, months later, and lost in a fog of grief, Maddie is completely blindsided when she sees Scott entering the tube station just in front of her. It can't be him, can it? After all, Scott is dead. Or is he? That sounds really great and really cool. Yeah, this cover. Stunning. Stunning. Next, on August 20th, we have We Love the Nightlife. We Love to Boogie by Rachel Kohler Croft. This is a vampire horror. There's quite a few on this list, and I'm excited about every single one of them. Locked in a toxic female friendship, two vampires careen toward catastrophe in this dark and dazzling page-turner set amidst London's glittering disco scene. London, 1979. Two women with a deep love for disco meet one fateful night on the dance floor, changing the course of both their lives forever. Nicola, a beautiful and brooding vampire for nearly 2 centuries, can't resist fun-loving and feisty Amber from America, ultimately offering an eternity together where the glamour of nightlife always takes center stage. But not all is what it seems. Nearly 50 years later, after an unexpected betrayal, Amber wants out from under Nicola's thumb. But it won't be so simple to break up this festering friendship when she learns others have done the same and wound up dead. This kind of gives like The Hunger, the horror movie, kind of gives those vibes, like lesbian vampires. I don't know, I'm kind of getting those vibes from it, which is why I was interested and wanted to put it on this list. I'm very interested. Alright, going in September, I actually pre-ordered this book. I know I said I was going to do the library, but I couldn't resist. This just sounds... Let me talk about it. Let me talk about it. Immortal Dark by Tejas Gurma. This comes out September 3rd. Opening installment of a black vampire romantasy series steeped in dark academia vibes. Immortal Dark pitches two bloodsuckers bound to the same arcane house into a deadly quest in the ruthless vampiric underworld. Hidden in our world, a society of vampires originating in Africa can only feed from select human bloodlines. Each bloodline represents a house more cutthroat than the next. To ensure peaceful coexistence and inherit their legacy, human children of these families must study at an elite university before choosing a vampire companion. The Cruel Prince meets Ninth House. That's all you had to say. In my cart, pre-ordered. I can't wait for it to get here. Dangerously romantic dark academia debut, where a lost heiress must infiltrate a secret society and live with the vampire she suspects kidnapped her sister. Damn. Yeah, see why I pre-ordered it? Yeah, I mean, come on. Next is one I also just heard about. This could be either really good or really bad, but I'm thinking for me it will probably be really great. That is Pay the Piper by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus. George A. Romero was a horror director. He passed away a few years ago. He donated a bunch of stuff to the University of Pittsburgh, and while going through that collection, novelist Daniel Kraus turned up a half-finished novel called Pay the Piper, a project that few have ever heard of. In the years since, Kraus has worked with Romero's estate to bring the unfinished masterwork to light. Daniel Kraus wrote, which I haven't read, it's on my list because I've heard it's really, really good, a horror novel called Whalefall, and this is his newest project. I'm really hoping this does well, just because I love George A. Romero, but I'll tell you what it's about. It sounds like just ridiculous and very George A. Romero. So, Alligator Point, Louisiana, population 141. Young Renee Pontiac has heard stories of the Piper, a murderous swamp entity haunting the bayou her entire life. But now the legend starts to feel real. Children are being taken and gruesomely slain. To resist, Pontiac and the town's desperate denizens will need to acknowledge the sins of their ancestors, the infamous slave traders, the pirates Lafayette. If they don't, it's time to pay the piper. I'm hoping this is gonna be like really good and campy. So cover's really great. Next is an author I've been dying to read for so long. This is a YA horror. I think they've only written YA horror. I could be wrong. But anyway, Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White. This comes out September 3rd. And another Appalachian type of horror. A gut-wrenching story following a trans autistic teen who survives an attempted murder, only to be drawn into a generational struggle between the rural poor. I can't say that word. I'm from the South and I cannot say rural poor and those who exploit them. On the night Miles Abernathy, 16-year-old socialist and proud West Virginian, comes out as trans to his parents, he sneaks off to a party, carrying evidence that may finally turn the tide of the blood feud plaguing Twist Creek. Photos that prove the county sheriff, Davies, was responsible for the so-called accident that injured his dad, killed others, and crushed their grassroots efforts to unseat him. The feud began hundreds of years ago when Miles' great-great-grandfather, Saint Abernathy, incited a miners' rebellion that ended with a public execution at the hands of law enforcement. Now Miles becomes the feud's latest victim as the sheriff's son and his friends sniff out the evidence, follow him through the woods, and beat him nearly to death. In the hospital, the ghost of a soot-covered man hovers over Miles' bedside, while Sheriff Davies threatens Miles into silence. But when Miles accidentally kills one of the boys who hurt him, he learns of other folk in Twist Creek who want out from under the sheriff's heel to free their families from the cycle of cruelty. They're willing to put everything on the line, but is Miles. I've wanted to read their work for so long, so this might just be a starting point to do it. It's gotten really good early reviews so far. Alright, now we're coming to the cover I'm not the biggest fan of, but I really like the premise of it. Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This comes out September 10th. The menu meets Ready or Not in this dark tale of opulent luxury, shocking violence from the author of Bloom, which I haven't read. It's on my TBR. Thrift fashionista Des Lane doesn't want to date Patrick Ruskin. She just wants to meet his mother, the editor-in-chief of Nouveau magazine. When he invites her to his family's big Easter reunion at their ancestral home, she's certain she can put up with his arrogance and fend off his advances long enough to ask Marie Calford Ruskin for an internship someone with her pedigree could never nab through the regular submission route. When they arrive at the enormous island mansion, Des is floored. She's never witnessed how the 1% lives before in all their ridiculous, unnecessary luxury. But once all the family members are on the island and the ferry has departed, things take a dark turn. For decades, the Ruskins have made their servants sign contracts that they are basically indentured servants. And with nothing to lose, the servants have decided their only route to freedom is to get rid of the Ruskins for good. And I love Ready or Not. It's one of my favorite movies of the last few years. And I did really like the menu too, so this just sounds super fun. And the next one, oh my god, this cover is so stunning. It's so stunning. And I just heard about this one recently too. Lucy Undying by Kirsten White. This comes out September 10th. Her name was written in the pages of someone else's story. Lucy Westenra was one of Dracula's first victims, but her death was only the beginning. Lucy rose from the grave a vampire and has spent her immortal life trying to escape from Dracula's clutches and trying to discover who she really is and what she truly wants. Lucy has been a tragically murdered teen, a loathsome adventurer, and a fearsome hunter, but happiness has always eluded her. Can she find the strength to destroy Dracula once and for all, or will her heart once again be her undoing? And the cover is so beautiful. It reminds me of how they portrayed Lucy in Francis Ford Coppola version of Dracula with Gary Oldman. Like, I'll just put, that's what the cover reminds me of, on point. So I think this is gonna be really fun. And her hair and like the wolves, so good. All right, well, we have another YA release, Such Lovely Skin by Tatiana Schlott. This comes out September 17th. An evil video game, a lying Twitch streamer, a demon hungry for her secrets. After spending the summer racked with guilt about causing the accident that killed her little sister, ambitious gamer and chronic liar Viv returns to Twitch streaming. She never told her parents the truth about the accident, but she hopes that maybe making it big and streaming and giving the money to them is penance enough for her mistakes. The weekend before school starts, Viv finds the perfect horror game to make her Twitch comeback, and during an offline practice practice run, an NPC asks Viv for a secret. She decides to tell them the truth about her sister's death, since a game could never share her secret. In doing so, she accidentally welcomes a demonic mimic into her life. That sounds so sick. I love that it has to deal with gaming. I'm excited for this one. Next we have Graveyard Shift by ML Rio. This comes out September 24th. I have not read We Were Liars yet. I own it and I want to read it this fall. That's when I'm planning to read it. But I'm thinking before I read Graveyard Shift, I'm gonna have to read that, and you'll see what I mean in a second. A story about a ragtag group of night shift workers who meet in the local cemetery to unearth the secrets lurking in an open grave. Every night, in the college's ancient cemetery, 5 people cross paths as they work the late shift. A bartender, a rideshare driver, a hotel receptionist, the steward of the local derelict church that looms over them, and the editor-in-chief of the college paper, always in search of a story. Excuse you. Shush. Shush. One dark October evening in the defunct churchyard, they find a hole that wasn't there before. A fresh open grave where no grave should be. But who dug it and for whom? Before they go their separate ways, the gravedigger returns. As they trail him through the night, they realize he may be the key to a string of strange happenings around the town that have made headlines the last few weeks, and they may be closer to the mystery than they thought. I think I saw somewhere that the graveyard is like the backdrop is a familiar setting or something like that. Maybe I saw that worded in another synopsis. I'm thinking it's set in the same universe as We Were Liars, like outside the same school. That's what I'm thinking. Regardless, I'm gonna read We Were Liars before I read this. Getting to October, the last four I want to talk about. These are all like ones I cannot. Every single one I can't wait to read. First being The Bog Wife by Kay Chronister. This comes out October 1st. Perfect for fans of T. Kingfisher and Stephen Graham Jones. It is said that the Haddlesleys have too much of the bog in their blood to live in the world. Living an isolated existence in the Appalachians, they observe strange rituals and worship the forest and mud that surrounds them. When Charles, the patriarch of the family, reveals he is dying, his children rally around him, only to find their fraying bonds tearing apart one by one, and their beliefs upended. For Winna, the only Haddlesley to have ever escaped the forest, it means coming home to face difficult truths. For Charlie, the eldest son, his father's death means facing up to new, terrifying responsibilities. Because the bog is waiting, ever growing, ever hungry. And if the Haddlesley children aren't careful, they will awaken something they have tried to keep at bay for a century. Again, another Appalachian horror that sounds like it could lean more folk horror. And I love T. Kingfisher so much. Next is The Night Guest by Hildur Knutsdottir, translated from Icelandic by Mary Robinette Kowal. This comes out October 1st as well. This is set in contemporary Reykjavik. Now, I looked up how to pronounce this name 5 different places, and it's also the name I found out of a Nordic goddess. It doesn't look like how it would sound, so I'm probably pronouncing this wrong because it seemed like it had to be really nasally. It looks like this, but it's pronounced Yithun, where like you're supposed to breathe out of your nose a little bit. Yithun is the main character, is in another doctor's office. She knows her constant fatigue is a sign that something's not right. But practitioners dismiss her symptoms and blood tests because they haven't revealed any cause. When she talks to friends and family about it, the refrain is the same. Have you tried eating better? Exercising more? Establishing a nighttime routine? She tries to follow the advice, buying everything from vitamins to sleeping pills to a step-counting watch. Nothing helps. Until one night, Yithun falls asleep with the watch on and wakes up to find she's walked over 40,000 steps in the night. Yeah, I need to know so badly. What is happening? This could be maybe another folk horror. I added it to the list because I can't not know. I did get denied an ARC for this, very sadly, but I'm going to be patient enough to wait until October. There's 2 more. Next is Where I End by Sophie White. This comes out October 13th. Hey, this is Editing Peyton, realizing I did make a mistake on the publishing date. Where I End has already been released. It came out in 2022 under a smaller publisher, and in 2024 it got picked up by a larger publisher. So that's the only difference here. It's being re-released under a different publisher, and that's the date I have below, but I'm still going to talk about it anyway because it sounds real good. At Night, My Mother Creaks. The house creaks along with her. Through our thin shared wall, I can hear the makings of my mother gurgle through her body, just like water in the walls of the house. Teenage. This is I think this is Irish horror. Another name I had to look up. It's spelled like this, but it's pronounced Avine. Teenage Avine has never left the island. Her silent, bedbound mother is a wreckage, the survivor of a private disaster no one will speak about. Avine desperately wants a family. And when Sarah and her young child move to the island, Avine finds a focus for her relentless love. A horror story about being bound by the blood not of a family. Crap. So yeah, if you live in the Twin Cities, first Wednesday of every month they do this storm siren at 1 p.m. When I first moved here, it scared the absolute crap out of me. I had no idea what was happening. But yeah, I just like, oh yeah, it's the first Wednesday. Did I say Thursday? Wednesday. It's the first Wednesday of every month. They do this at 1 p.m. Sounds like the start of a horror movie. Wait for it to pass. The main reason I added this to the list, besides like the synopsis sounded really good, sealed the deal for me, was this Goodreads review. This book has made mincemeat out of me. Hell, I've never cried in horror at a book before. That's all I need. Alright, and lastly, I just got her debut novel from the library, so I will be reading that very soon. I might read it for Summerween. American Rapture by C.J. Lee. This comes out October 15th. What would you do if your sexual desires turned you into a monster? A virus spreading across America, transforming the infected and making them feral with lust. I thought it was over. I did not think the timing of filming this through at all. Okay, God bless. Sophie, a good Catholic girl, must traverse the hellscape of the Midwest to try and find her family while the world around her burns. Along the way, she discovers there are far worse fates than dying a virgin. American Gods meets Manhunt in this epic and sweeping apocalyptic novel about the unraveling of the world as we know it. Those are all the horror that I am personally super excited about that are coming out. Obviously, there are going to be a ton more that I didn't include on this list. Oh, little Rosie's here. Come here. Rosie's like, are you done talking about horror books? They scary. They scary. It's all over. I'm all done. But we're gonna watch a horror movie later, I'm sure. Are any of the books on this list, on my list, any that you're interested in? What's a horror release that you're really interested that I didn't include on this list? I'd love to know down below. Rosie. And as always, thank you for clicking, thank you for watching, and I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye! Okay.